Today's lesson is lesson 8-4, generate equivalent fractions using division. We're on page 305 in your Envision Volume 2 textbook. Today we will use division to find equivalent fractions. If you recall yesterday, we were using multiplication to find equivalent fractions. We remembered that multiplying a number times 1 does not change the number. Anything times 1 is itself. The same thing is true with a fraction that is equal to 1. And then we are going to learn today we can use division using a fraction of 1. Sarah bought a piece of ribbon. The length of the ribbon is given in tenths. Write the length as two other equivalent fractions. Solve this problem any way you choose. Remember to be precise when answering the question. Use appropriate labels. All right, so this ribbon is 6/10 of a meter. As we just mentioned, we can multiply or divide any number by 1 and we'll end up with the same number. So that means that if we divide a fraction or multiply a fraction by 1, we will have the same fraction. So let's try what we did yesterday using multiplication. In reverse, we're going to divide by 1, which means that our fraction must have the same numerator as denominator. That would make our fraction 1 whole, and we can divide anything by 1 whole and get the same number. So for example, 2/2, because we know that 2/2 equals 1 whole. And we know that from division facts, anything divided by 1 is itself. So we're not changing the value of the fraction, just another form of the fraction. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So 3/5 is an equivalent fraction to 6/10. If we were multiplying, we could go that route as well. Remember, as yet we did in our last lesson, times 2/2, because 2/2 equals a whole. 6 times 2 is 12. 10 times 2 is 20. So 12/20 is also an equivalent fraction. All right, so when we divide or multiply fractions, remember we do the top, we do the numerators, from left to right. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 10 divided by 2 is 5. 6 times 2 is 12. 10 times 2 is 20. And these would be, all three of these would be equivalent fractions. Look back, Sarah wrote the following equivalent fractions. 6/10 equals 3/5. We just proved that. What two operations could Sarah have used to find her equivalent fractions? We did both division and multiplication. Those are our two operations to find equivalent fractions. Remember though, you must be dividing or multiplying by 1 whole, which would be any fraction, any number. We could have been 7. 7/7 equals 1 whole. It could be anything over itself, the same as long as it's 1 whole. All right, skipping over to page 307 for guided practice. Do you understand? Use division to show 9/12 and 3/4 are equivalent fractions. We're going to start with our 9/12, and we need to divide to find 3/4. Now, 9 divided by what number is 3? 3. 12 divided by 3 is 4. This is 1 whole. So they are equivalent. These two are equivalent fractions. Is there a fraction with a smaller numerator and denominator that is equivalent to 4/12. Explain. That means that I would have to divide by a whole, and if there is an equivalent fraction, then yet our answer would be yes. Let's try 2. Both of these are even numbers, so they are both divisible by 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 12 divided by 2 is 6. So yes, 4/12 is equivalent to 2/6. This is a smaller numerator and smaller denominator. We could even go further. This could have been divisible by 4. We could have divided by 4/12 by 4/4, which is still a whole. And we could have gotten 4 divided by 4 is 1. 12 divided by 4 is 3, 1/3. Both are equivalent. Do you know how divide to find equivalent fractions? Again, find a number that both the numerator and denominator are divisible by. If they're both even numbers, we know we can always divide by 2. Sometimes we may be dividing by 3/3 or another number. So we need to look at our numerator and denominator and see what common factor they have. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 10 divided by 2 is 5, so 3/5. Same thing here. Let's choose 4 though. I know that 8 and 12 have 4 in common, so 8 divided by 4 is 2. 12 divided by 4 is 3. If I would have just divided by 2, I would have gotten 4/6, would also be equivalent. This one we don't get the choice because we need to know what divided by 12 divided by what equals 3. Well, 3 times 4 is 12, so it must be 4. So I must divide my 8 by 4, and I get 2. Now 10 divided by 2 is 5, so 12 divided by 2 is 6. 10 divided by 2 is 5, so 2 divided by 2 is 1. 100 divided by 10 is 10, so 10 divided by 10 is 1. All right, the bottom is yours to do for independent practice after your visual learning video. And then you'll also do 30 and 31. So back to page 306 with your visual learning video, then your independent practice and quick check for the day.